we have a slight change of plans today. As you can tell, I'm not in a déjà vu. We have to do it next week. They had they were down a driver today, and they had so many book clients that I said, well, let's just reschedule it for next week. So we're going to do the déjà vu next weekend at 5:30. Give everybody a little extra half hour. Hi, Sharon. But so where I am today is because I've never brought people in here on the lives. We're at the Monnaie. This is the Paris Mint, and it's a really gorgeous building, and you could just walk right in here into this courtyard. Look at these great little seats they have. Hey, Angela. They have these great little kind of beachy chairs here, and on either side you could fill up your water bottle. It's hot. It's going to be really hot for the next 8 or 9 days. It's actually not too bad. If you're not in the sun right now, it's okay. But we are going to go out. But I have some fun things to show you guys, so thanks so much for being here today. And I know some of you are getting close to coming. Angela is counting her days. Chrissy's even sooner. Sharon, I know she's coming in a month or so. So we'll give her like one more few seconds. But has anybody been here before? It is a fascinating museum. So cool. It's a great museum to come if for kids, probably like teenage kids that are really interested into things. It's really, really cool. There is sometimes special exhibits. There just was one that was about, it was argent, so it was money in art. Really interesting. When I came, I was the only person here. But the permanent collection here is so cool because it's the mint. And so this used to be one of the main mints of France. And this is now where they make all the special coins. So the special coins that they're doing for the Olympics, anytime you go to a monument and they are selling, and sometimes museums like the Louvre and Orsay, they sell those gold coins, not real gold, for like 2 to 3 euros. And those are specific to, the monument or the museum. They make those all here. So all of that's made here. And the thing that's really cool is that the Monnaie dates back to June 25th, 864. It is the oldest still surviving company in all of France and is the 7th oldest in the world. Pretty cool. So I will take you down and show you some of these cool things, because right above my head is some of my favorites, including my favorite little guy up here. Do you see that guy there? Henri cat. I love Henri. And then you have Louis the 13th, Louis the 14th, and Louis the 15th. And up here, we have the allegories of prudence and abundance, and you'll see them on the front as well. But this building itself dates back to 1771 when they laid the first stone, and we sit on the Quai de Conti, and that is because there used to be the Maison du Conti that was on the street. Look at those great cornucopias up there. Cornucopias, of course, they represent abundance, so that makes sense here too. To have here on the and there is actually, here, I'll take you in here real quick. There is a little mark of the meridian line, but I need to do some research because the meridian line is actually, I think this has been moved, because the meridian line is farther the other direction, about 70 feet. Right here, we have a little, somewhat of an obelisk here, and it has some of the astrological symbols on it. Oh, there's my Taurus. And this guy dates back to 1771 as well. When I got here, I walked really close to it, and those little vents on either side were blowing out hot air, like 100-degree hot air. I thought I was going to die for a second. When it's already, it wasn't, yeah, I think it's like 86 degrees out. Right here, it's lovely, right in that little pass through. But I'm going to take you out this direction. We could also go out that way, but we'll go out the front and go across the street and show you the front of this building where you can see a little bit better, because it is a really beautiful building. And you have, if you come here to go to a exhibit, they have them up that stairs. If you want to go to a super, super fancy dinner, Guy Savoy's restaurant is here. And you have the L up there for Louis. Bonjour, monsieur. Um, right here, the restaurant Guy Savoy. But it's a really cool building, and it's just right here. So the Pont Neuf, it's in between the Pont Neuf and the Pont des Arts, which I'm going to take you to there because I don't know if you saw my Instagram story. The Pont Neuf is finished. So we're going to run across here. Try not to get hit by a car or a bus. And I'll show you this side. So today is the 3rd. I know you all have a holiday, but here tomorrow, everybody is back to school and back to work after being gone since August. Look at that fun little sketching set. I'll find a good little spot here. Show you the fireman's boat just in case they're out there. So here's the front of the facade, which they have had the Ukrainian flag up there for quite some time now, which is wonderful. But you can see here, how pretty the entrance is? And those doors with the big L's on it. And if you come in here to exhibit, those the big windows there on the first floor, that is where the really beautiful kind of ceremonial rooms are. And the restaurants on the first floor to the right, that's where the restaurant is. But at the very top, you have more allegories, including prudence, abundance, justice, peace, trade. Pretty cool. It is a really cool building. This is another one of those that's going to be open that 3rd weekend in November, if you're here. It is not one that gets a huge amount of people coming, but it is really cool to go. So if you're planning out your schedule, if you're going to be here, this is another really great one. But 1771, but 864, and so there's still mints. Most of the main mint of France is down in the center of the country. And so this one is just all the ceremonial things. And you go in there is a gift shop that's over. You go to the end of the building and take a right. There is a little boutique there, and you could buy some of those special coins. You could buy some that are super, super like real gold, real silver, really, really cool ones that you could even, make into a necklace or something. Right now, they have a whole collection about Harry Potter. So they have a little bit of everything. And sometimes they have special designers that are doing different pieces for them, including it was Galliano did some a while ago. But look at how everybody's out in the beautiful Pont Neuf. And the work on the Pont Neuf is all done up there as well. So all of the little railings have been replaced with the plexiglass just on the Pont, like the Pont des Arts, because people leaving their locks. But now what people are doing is now they're just bringing Sharpies and writing on the glass, which is really lovely. I don't understand how people want to do that because maybe when I come to people's homes, I'm just going to start writing on walls because apparently that's fine. But here you have, I don't see any of them. I don't see anybody out there on the boat. Yeah, but we're not in New York. I've never seen all the booths actually open. They're back to work though. Although I'm not a Jägermeister fan, but I am a Louboutin fan. So now we're going to cross again. We're going to take you down the side street. We're going to go weaving back and forth a little bit. But next week, I'm excited to do the de Chavot. I'm sorry we couldn't do it today. But I told him to go ahead and take his. Don't worry about us. We'll do it next week. So this area right here, this is where the Tower of Nesle used to be. And there is a painting that's in the Louvre that's called the Parlement du Pays. And it is the Pietà. And it was a altarpiece that was originally in the Parliament. And in the background, it had, there's two random mismatched shoes. In the background, it has one of the very few images. We only have three images from paintings of what the medieval Louvre looked like. But in this one, it also has the Tower of Nesle. So this right here, this used to be where another chateau was, and it's the Tower of Nesle. And there's a very scandalous story about these daughters that lived here and their lovers, and they'd have these lovers, and then they'd keep them for a period of time, and then before their father came, they would actually throw them out the window, and they'd land here and die. But that was taken down. That Tower of Nesle was also where they used to have the chain. So there was actually a chain that would go across the river, going from the Tower of Nesle to the Louvre, and that would basically block so ships couldn't get down the water. And back then, we didn't have the banks, we didn't have the walls like that on here, so it was just basically like silt going right into the ground. But look at this one. So this is also, look at that, 22nd of August. So the FFI installed here on the 22nd of August, 1944, here at the Hotel de Monnaie, until the 28th of August, 1944, combatants of the liberation. So next year is going to be a big anniversary since they like to celebrate those big numbers. But this is a little dead end street, but I want to show it to you because it's super cute. And we could have actually just passed in through here. So it's kind of great that you can just actually walk right in there. Once you go in, you buy a ticket, which is only not very much, I think €9. And you could go into the actual collection. And it has all these demonstrations about money, different forms of money in French history, and also how it was created and some of the special commemorative coins. Look at this. So look at this little, I just kind of love all this little greenery because it's actually real greenery, not like the hideous fake flowers on everything in Paris, which I clearly don't like. This would be quiet. This would be like the perfect little courtyard because it's just nice and quiet, but you're so close to the Louvre. That's really all that matters. But this is the Impasse de Conti. Take it back. It's a little warmer now. there is a sign on the side of the Institut de France marking the location of the tower. But this gentleman out here, this bronze gentleman, is Nicolas de Contray, and he was a mathematician and a politician, as well as a philosopher. And he is right here because he actually lived not too far from here, but also because at one point he was involved with the mint. So this was done by Jacques Perrin, and it was inaugurated on the 100th anniversary of his death, which was July 14th, 1894. There was for a long time, somebody took it was like a wood frame, and somehow they got it up and over his head, and that was here for quite some time. Somebody wrote "Tax the Rich" on here. There he is. But this was the original statue that was here was melted down in World War II, and then luckily replaced later. Right there, 1894, 1941 is when it was destroyed. In 1991, it was returned by the Monnaie de Paris, the city of Paris. It is a pretty day out, though. It is nice and sunny and beautiful. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna just zigzag around. This might not be the longest walk today, but we're gonna go over to the bridge and then around here a little bit into the little parks. But it's raining. You can see up here. Thank you, Chrissy. So here, because this was also part of the wall of Philippe Auguste in the year of 1200 and the Tower of Nesle. So just like the Louvre, which was right across the street, the medieval Louvre, from where you see the pavilion there, the Pavillon des Arts, which is straight through. That's how I go to the Cour Carré. But right there, so basically where that big tree is, and you can kind of see the triangle um, right up there at the top. So if you went to there, you kind of went straight through the door, and to the left, probably 15 steps, that would have been the edge of the medieval Louvre. So the wall went right here behind us to over there. So not exactly a straight shot across, because the straight shot across would be the end of the building, but it was kind of more over. That is where the wall was. So this side was Paris. This side of it was outside the city, which is always crazy to think that what was technically at one point outside the city is now the center, pretty much the center point of the city. But you have here the beautiful Institut de France, which was originally created under Cardinal Mazarin. He left money in his will to have a school built, and this was originally called the College of the Four Nations, and it was four nations, and those four nations were they were kind of just the area around us. So Alsace-Touraine in Italy, Roussillon, and Artois. And so those were the four nations. And of that, it was a total of 60 students. So this whole beautiful, amazing thing was created for basically 60 students to come to school. And so after he died, they had it built. He died in 1661. And then they had this built in 1805. The Academy, Academy of all the academies, painting and letters and science and everything had gone into the Louvre. Before actually Louis XIV even left the Louvre, And so they were put into the Louvre. And then in 1805, when Napoleon got here, he went in there and kicked them all out. So he kicked out all the artists living there. He kicked out all the institute. He kicked out the academy, everything. And so by that point, because it's 1805, they had stopped the school and decided to put that all over here. So now it is the Institut de France, and it has, this is where they govern the French language. And I'll show you something over there. What's the big camera there on that bike? Um, this is where they create and work on the Dictionary of France. And the latest edition, there was one in the window of the little shop over here saying it was the latest edition, but it's like A through E. And they have been working on this one for like, I don't like decades, like absolutely decades. And they keep adding words to it. Like when COVID, they had to decide if it was masculine or feminine, and there's all these words. They really hate it's Franglish. They hate anytime English is being moved into anything. A lot of the stuff like technology you have today, pretty much that's all in English. And so that's what when I was taking my original French tutor, and I would say, you know, comme dit-on, you know, I don't even remember what the word was, but he was like website. In French, it's just website. So it's kind of funny. But here, this is really cool. There's an amazing library. It's just right up there behind those windows. Right now would not be the time to go because it does not have any air conditioning and it's really, really hot. But this is another place you could come on that special weekend right there, the 16th and 17th of September. And it's really, really cool. So, Collage de Quatre Nations, founded by Cardinal Mazarin. The edifice was built in 1662 by Louis Laveau. Louis Laveau is the same gentleman that did a lot of work on the Louvre, but that's all the academies. So the Académie Française, which is the language, inscriptions and letters, science, beaux-arts, science, and they still, so those seats, the people that take those seats, they're called the immortals, because if you were elected into one of those seats, each one of those has their own, and when you are elected into that seat, you have that seat till you die. So there was some people like Victor Hugo was trying to get in there for years, and also Delacroix, and it's a very somewhat political thing, but it's really cool. You could actually, when I'm doing research, you could say this person held seat number, 22 of the Academy of Paintings, and you could go online and you could see everybody that also held that seat, a 22. And with each person, they also have a sword. They have these uniforms that they wear, and then they have these really cool swords. And the swords are created for them by a different designer, and they could pick the designer. And Jean Cocteau had one, and the designer actually incorporated some of his art into it. Simone Weil, who was one of the other greatest women in French history, next to Rose Vallon, hers was gorgeous as well. And I think she incorporated the number she had on her arm that the Nazis, tattooed on her when she was in a camp. Um, but you could see some of those actually I'm not sure if they're still there, but the Marmottan Monet always had this kind of little exhibit where they had them because the Marmottan Monet is also overlooked by the Institut de France, as is the Jacquemart André. So the Jacquemart André that was left to the Institut de France. Here's another little bibliothèque founded in 1643. 1789 is when it was turned into state property. But the books in here, it is one of the oldest collection of books in France because it is the actual collection of Mazarin. But look at, so Louis Laveau, who did a lot of work on the Louvre, did this building with I love the Corinthian columns, capitals up there, and the Ionic capitals on this side. The Ionic ones are said to be the female version. So why don't we go over the bridge first and then we'll come back. But it's very excited because this was finally finished, and it started in, I think it was June. And they said it'd be done by September. And if you've been around long enough, and they say something like that in France, you're like, yeah, right, we'll see. And guess what? It was opened up on September 1st. So it was done by September. But they've completely replaced all the boards, replaced some of the glass, plexiglass that's on there, and they've redone the benches. The benches look beautiful, new stained wood. It felt very luxurious walking across the whole thing because they've done it half at a time. So they started on the west half first. They did that, and then you could walk on the east, and then vice versa. They changed it, and today you get to walk on the whole thing. So check this out. A fireman's boat down there. Look at this. So the boards have already weathered just in the time it took them. You could kind of see underneath the shape that was part of the pylon for the little fence around it. But it looked really pretty when it was all like freshly colored timber. And then it's weathered pretty quickly. But look at these benches, how pretty these benches are. And there's already garbage all over it. And then there's idiots that ride on it and carve things into the railings here. Look at that. Those trees are very, very full there at the end of the Ile de la Cité. Nothing is really turning yet. We haven't had any of the leaves really turning. I'm very sad that my favorite building with ivy is no longer. It repainted the outside, and so the ivy is gone. The Samaritan right there to the left with those two flags on top. And it's also the Cheval Blanc. There is where you see the awnings on the level with the awnings, kind of three floors below the top. That is the restaurant to Paris, which has a amazing view. One of the very few views from a rooftop bar that you get of towards the left bank. Most of them are up farther or looking over towards, looking closer over to the Eiffel Tower. You have like the Bay, but that doesn't, this one gets you right. You're overlooking the Monnaie and right into the left bank, which is beautiful. The Paris Plage, this is the last day for Paris Plage, which is down a little bit further. And so all of the umbrellas down, it's past Pont Neuf. Those will start coming down tomorrow morning as well. But look at, isn't it lovely? So the Pont des Arts, this version of the Pont des Arts, the original 1801, it was the one 1801, the version that was created by Napoleon. It was the very first metal bridge in all of France that was created, and originally it had 9 sections. So if you looked at it from down below, it had 9 arches. And if you listen to the podcast we did, I don't know, 8-9 months ago, we did 2 episodes about the floods of France, where I talked about not just the 1910 flood, which is the one that everybody has heard about because you've seen the markers in Paris, but Paris has had many, many floods, and that was not even the highest, even though that's the one that gets all the press. But I did like a week of research on those 2 podcasts, and it was really fun. And now I'm going to be terrified if it gets to be lots of rainfall, lots of snowpack, and then it gets warm in the winter. I'll just be going to higher ground. But we talked about the bridges and how many of them were destroyed, and a lot of them. Oh, I see the swans down there. A lot of them were destroyed because boats would just run into them. And because this was a 9 arches, so it meant that the passway in between were smaller because you have 7 now, that boats were running into it. And it was just, you get enough time running into them, and then it's damaged. World War One and World War Two, it was hit with projectiles from the Germans. And another time, a boat hit it so bad that it basically completely brought down part of it with people on it. But when it was originally created, and I wish that we could still see this today, when it was originally created, it was done so that it looked like a hanging garden, and you actually had to pay to walk across this. It's always been pedestrians, but you had to pay to walk across it, and there was huge planters and benches and places for people to sit. But you had all of this, like basically, if you were coming down the river and you looked up, it would all be plants and foliage coming down. Again, real ones, not fake ones, real ones. And so that is what people got to see, and I think that would be so pretty to see. And I've seen some like lithographs of it. I'll try to find a picture and then share that on the my Patreon page. But it would be pretty cool to see that. So it was this version was created in 1981. So it took 3 years for them to finish it. That's when they went down to seven arches because that also is what aligns with the Pont Neuf. You have three on the right and four on the left, or five, but they line up over there. The fifth one is kind of right in there. Oh, the firemen are back. The truck is back. These two boats recently sold. My friend Michael is always on this every single day in the afternoon, taking photos of everybody. And each of the boat that's closest to the wall, and then the one next to it that says UYOO, each of those sold for more than €1.5 million. I mean, it's a pretty. I mean, who wouldn't want to be sitting out there? You got the breeze and everything off the water on a day like this. Pretty fantastic. Look at that. The firemen have been over there for a little bit. And then, of course, my love, the Louvre. And this you could see on this side of it. So the Grand Gallery is there to the left. And you can see on this side all the windows. But when you're in the Grand Gallery, you only see a handful of windows because they created a fake wall there, kind of covering that up so they could add more art. And then you have that window that's there on the very right with the really pretty bullseye at the top. That is the Galerie des Palais, and then below that is the was originally the summer apartments at Anne of Austria, and that is what is going under a huge renovation. They're doing a ton of work in there. It's supposed to be open by the spring of 2024, which probably means fall, but I anxiously await the return of it. My friend Angela, when she was like 16, she worked in there in the summer, and she went up to the very top. So she did it as an intern, and she said that they had to do this internship, and she was the only one that signed up for the Louvre. And so each day for a week, she spent it with somebody. So one day she spent it in the Tuileries, where she went around with the gardeners. One day she was a security. She had all these different things she had to do. And she was up there. There's a picture she sent me from the roof back there, looking down towards the city on the roof. Of course, I just about died. Oh, I'm glad you found it, Janice. Yeah, you sent me the message when we went live, so I couldn't. I couldn't answer. And the Caliph boat. Caliph is if you want to do any dinner cruise in Paris, that is the one I would do. It's fantastic. It's a great ship. It's smaller than some of the giant ones. The food is really good. The people are really nice. I have done the really fancy, expensive one, the Alain Ducasse, a couple times, which is something like €350 per person. Oh, and Caliph is, I think, depending on which one you do, if you do wine included or just buy separate, I think the top price is 159. So it's a really great deal, and it's also nice because you get on it right here. You don't have to go down all the way towards the Eiffel Tower, which getting there, getting to the boat, whether you're taking a taxi or just even a metro, it's a giant pain. And this one you get on right here, get on and get off right here at the Pont des Arts. Whew, warm. Everybody's finding some shade. But let me see. Hopefully maybe they have a picture. They always have over here um, free exhibitions, and they are always tied to the École des Beaux-Arts, which is really close to here as well. Oh, here's a woman with a sword on here. Most of the swords are like silver and jewels and everything, but look at hers, it's red. She's a choreographer. But they each, so that's their little costumes, their little outfits they all get to wear. And it's tough business getting into it. But they do little, so every time they have a new member, they have a ceremony. And a lot of times when I'm walking home, I come by here and you see all the very fancy people and cars. But this, when you come, if you come in here that weekend in September, you could actually go into this room. So this is a ceremonial room, which is kind of just right behind, underneath the dome. And there's a statue of Napoleon in there. But that's, you get to see. You can pop in there during the day. You just can't go. All you're going to see is the inside of the courtyard. So look, here is, I just noticed this today, the dictionary of the Académie Française, the new edition, A through E. And they have a great little bookstore here. This used to be actually where we're standing, used to be the bookstore. And the pass through, that little cut through, was on this side. And then they filled that in, covered it up, and made it part of the bookstore. And then the pass through in the place where it is. But this is a really great store. They've got really great books. Some of it is books from the Academy members. And then some of it is, I see one is that Jean-Michel Autinier. And some of them, they have one about the history of, look at that, Charles de Gaulle's home. It's very bad because I walked by this. This one, I did see that book in the Louvre. Well, at the Louvre, get my discount. But this was a really cool exhibit they had at the Army Museum. But it's very tempting because they change out the windows all of the time. But here's a book. You could get a little magazine in French all about the Institut de France. And here I was very excited because one day I came in here and bought something, and then at the register, they had this little teeny tiny notebook, probably like, 3 by 5 inches. And it said the Cahier de Claudine, because it was about Colette, and I was very excited. Of course, I had to buy it, and of course, I'd never get to use it because I literally have an entire drawer filled with journals because I have to find something special to use. But see, you could get a little, Marie Curie, get a little book. Katherine Johnson, remember what was the movie they had that they made of those women that helped them land on the moon? That was awesome. So you come through here, and this is the Rue de Seine. And this little square right here is the Square Honoré Champion. And there used to be a statue of Voltaire. Actually, first, over here in that little island, you could kind of see above the blue and red sign, you see that is the statue of République. She used to be in here, and Voltaire used to be out there. And then they switched them, put Voltaire in here, and then Voltaire, people kept coming in here and spray painting his face and defacing him. And so the city of Paris during COVID took it down to clean it, and now they have not brought it back. And one day when I was walking home, there was these signs, laminated signs hanging on the fence. This was back in February, and I was stopped and read them. And this gentleman walked up, and he's like, "Madame, Madame." And so then he was telling me, because he is the one who added the signs, and he is created a petition for the city of Paris to get them to finally replace it with the bronze version of the statue, which is what it originally was. And then that was melted down during World War II. And then when it was replaced with marble one, but it was very porous marble. So every time they were going in here and spray painting it, it was just kind of ruining it. And so he was trying to get his petition signed by people to have it brought back. And the city gives them all these excuses and said, oh, no, we just moved it. We're just going to move it for a little while. It'll be back. But nothing is coming. Look at how beautiful those giant leaves are. They do a really good job. They're always pulling things out of here and changing this one with the seasons like they do at other parks. And you have a bust in here of Montesquieu. But this is Henri Champion was a publisher. And there's the Edition Henri Champion that's still a company, still in business. And he lived from 1846 to 1913. See his little sign up there. This, I'm thinking, hopefully soon. It looks like they're kind of finishing the work here on the back of the Institut de France, because my little friend, my very favorite, one of my favorite angels of Jean Charles is right behind there, that he's replaced 3 times because people come and erase it or throw water on it. But that is the marking of where this little guy, Louis, not little guy, he was much older, but he was killed there during the liberation of Paris. So here's my favorite. This was my favorite building that I used to do ivy watch on every year. And you could see no more ivy. So it's probably going to be quite a few years if it comes back, if they bring it back, because it was growing from the courtyard. But this is, I'm going to go around this side, and this is the square. Gabriel Canet, she was a composer who also lived in this neighborhood. So we are in Saint-Germain. This district is known as the Monnaie because every arrondissement has 4 quarters. This one, the most famous, of course, is Odeon. And this side of Saint-Germain is the Monnaie. But if you have seen that movie, Julie and Julia, anyway, the best part of it is only the parts with Julia Child, because Meryl Streep was amazing. But this is what they used as her door. So when she and Paul arrive in Paris, they come down this street, come down here, stop. The woman opens the door, and they use this as their apartment, the facade of that. So in here, there's a statue over here, but they're all playing, so I'll show you that a different day. But this, beautiful, you could say it is a Hermes because it's a double-sided face. And this is such a great park in the cherry blossoms. And this was a fountain that was at the Marché aux Carmes, which was over in the 5th, and nothing remains of it. It was all destroyed. This was saved and moved to here. It moved here in 1930. And it is really great. You have the boat there for the city of Paris. But you have on this side, she represents abundance. It also says don't drink the water. And this side is trade. So you see, you have the uses of Mercury, because Mercury is the messenger god. But no more getting amazing shots of this with my favorite red ivy in the background. But you can see that amazing shot with the dome of the Institut de France, which every time I would come to Paris, because I always stayed around Saint-Germain, my first day, I had to walk down Rue Mazarine and come back behind and see the dome. As always, I had to do that my very first day after I arrived. I'll take you up this street a little bit. Because this is a pretty important street because a lot of really great people. Look at this. So this is part of the Institute. It has a whole courtyard. So inside there's the courtyard, the first courtyard that looks up towards the dome and goes into the library. And then there's a whole nother courtyard behind it. And I have come to, when it was Fête de la Musique, I came here for they had a whole orchestra set up back there, which was gorgeous. But look, you can see in the windows, there's busts in there. Oh, but look at that gold. So in the morning, sometimes I catch it with the sun hitting those kind of little, almost like little gold frames on the dome. It's so beautiful. But this is the Rue Mazarin, even though he was Cardinal Mazarin, but it's Rue Mazarin. And this has some pretty cool things right here on this street. So here on this street is where on the street is where Moliere had his troupe for a short period of time, because this street turns into the Ancien Comédie, because that is where the Comédie Française was, up here on this street. And so they lived here. They also lived somewhere that's very close to me. And then you get down to this side. And two other pretty amazing things happened here. So here at number 28, for that gorgeous door, here at 28, not the Paris Cinema Club, but here at number 28 is where Jean-Francois Champollion lived here. And this is where he was 201 years ago this month. He was in his apartment when he finally deciphered the Rosetta Stone, where he figured it out. Champollion was brilliant and amazing, and he could learn languages, crazy languages you've never even heard of. He could learn these things very, very quickly. And because of that, he took it on as a challenge to try to figure out the Rosetta Stone, and he did. So he actually deciphered that. A good friend of mine is related to him. Let's see right there, September 1822. In this house where he lived, pretty cool. And then this is where Moliere, but also, do you recognize a word on that? Second line from the bottom, Pompier. This here is where they created the Pompier du Paris. Oh my God, is that a Christmas tree? Time to put it out. Time to get rid of it. I always wonder where these things still show up on the street, even this time of the year. And I always wonder, where in the heck do they keep these things in their tiny apartments? And now I know where. They keep it outside their window. Well, look at all those great old boards. My apartment has that, because my apartment is 17th century, but they painted them all white. But here is the back side. So you have offices. I mean, just imagine how many offices they are trying to fight over one word for the dictionary that they probably spend a week on one word to put in there. But yeah, so this is actually a fantastic Italian place to come to for dinner. But yeah, so that's our little walk today. It is now very toasty. I'm going to go home and get some water. But thank you guys so much for joining today, and I'm excited next week. So make sure I will put the link in the Patreon page, and we will do that one next week at 5:30 Paris time. So it'll be 8:30 West Coast and 11:30 on the East Coast. So just a tiny bit later. So that'll be good. I figured you'd like later than earlier. There was a choice of 4:30 p.m., which would be 7:30 in the morning. So I figured maybe you wanted 8:30 instead. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Tomorrow, the podcast is about some more of my very favorite books, including quite a few books about my good friend John Baxter wrote, and including his new one that is out soon. He gave me a early copy of it, and I've been reading it, and it's really great. It's about great loves of Paris. So, and I even gave him some ideas for a couple of those the loves that are in there. So that was kind of fun. So check out the podcast tomorrow, and then there's the links to all those books on my website. There's some really great fun books. John Baxter, David Downey has a couple great books that are really great ones to just bring, download them onto get the Kindle, even just put it on your iPhone. And they're really fun ones because they're just kind of little chapters about different things in Paris or different people. Kind of fun ones to read while you're having a coffee. The person watching a fight in there on TV. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And I will see you next weekend. And this week, I am leaving Paris. I'm leaving France for a few days to go to another European country. And it's something that's very close to me. It's actually a family member, and someplace my grandparents went 3 times. And so I'm going there. I'm taking tons of photos. I'm taking all the photos that he took there. I'm taking his journals, and I'm really excited to see my cousin that my grandma said would always tell me that I met when I was about a year old. But I don't, I would have to then tell her I don't ever recall that moment. But I'm very excited. So I will share that with you guys. So check out my Instagram, and then I will tell you guys about it next week. And so thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon. Thank you guys all for watching.